everyone. Sorry I couldn't be there today. I've got family obligations I have to take care of, but this is just about the same as me being there. All of you should have received a paper to work on. This is a quick instructions on how to do it. This is an expansion of something that we did before, um, domain and range. All right. So far, all we did domain and range on is points. All right. When you see domain, the first thing you should think about, domain equals X values. And when you see range, you should think of Y values. This is a review of what we did before on this. So the domain for these points here you see on the graph is just the X coordinates. So this one, first point, I start on the left, this one right here. All right, that's going to be at -3. The second one, this one here, is at -2. Then keep it going from left to right. The next one, this one right here, is at 1. Then this one is at 2. I'm just reading the X values. And the final one right here is at 5. All right, let me erase a little bit. Now doing the Y values. I'm going to start at the bottom because that's the least number, and it actually just makes sense starting there. So I'm going to start at the bottom. All right, the Y value of this point here is going to be -5. The Y value of this point is going to be 0, right? It doesn't go up or down, it just goes over. Since it doesn't go up or down, it's 0. Then we get a tie for the next one. This point and this point are both at +1, so we only have to put one down. And finally, this last point has a Y value of 4. All right, my next question is, and I'm going to ask this on each one of these graphs I show you, is this a function? And if you remember, the way to do this is do a vertical line test. Okay, just imagine that's a vertical line. As you drag this drag this from left to right, does it touch 2 points at the same time? So you can see dragging it right here, no, it just touches 1. Dragging it over here, it just touches 1. Dragging it, I keep dragging it from left to right, the vertical line just touches 1, touches 1, touches 1. All right, since it didn't touch 2 points, yes, it is a function. So that was a quick review of what we've done. This is all new. Well, when I say new, you may have had this in middle school. All right, domain and range. It's the total amount of points that it can be on the X scale and the Y scale. So the domain, the X's, for this graph that I've got here, this looks a little cumbersome. Let me get a different color here. All right, I want to know all the values I can have for the X, which is going to be between here and here. Y'all like this rainbow color? Okay, so this is an open circle. It can't include this number. It can never be a -5, but it can be all the way up, going backwards from 0. It can be a 1, it can be a 2, it can be a 3, all right? It can be a 4, it can be a 4.5, it can be a 4.8, it can be a 4.99. It just can't be a 5. That's why it's an open circle. That means it's not inclusive of 5. So this line, the points on this line can go to all the way to 4.999999. It just can't go to negative 5.0. That's what the open circle means. All right. And if you follow across this line, you can see the x value goes all the way up into a 5. And this is a closed circle, so it can include a 5. All right. This is inclusive of a 5. The other end, the negative, this doesn't include a negative 5. So the x value can be anything across this line. You can see this is a solid line, so it can be any points in between. It can be 1.5, it can be 2.6, it can be anything like that, all the way from negative 5, not inclusive, all the way up to 5 inclusive. The way to write that is, all right, there's two different ways. This is called set notation, and this one here is called interval notation. You need to know how to do both. Okay, the set notation. This line here, this open parentheses here, that means it's an open circle. So when you see a parentheses, it's an open circle. When you see a closed square box, however you want to see it, that means it's inclusive. See how this point is a solid point? This one's inclusive. This one's not. All right? Here, you're going to write this just like we did some of the inequalities that we worked on. Right? This is less than, and you're always going to be working with these pointing to the left when you're dealing with domain and range. And this one, because it's closed, all right, this one over here is going to be less than or equal to. So you should be able to look at either one of these, this block, the set notation or interval notation, and be able to associate it with this graph. Or I guess I should say that you should be able to look at this graph and associate it with these two different kind of notations. The range, let's look at that. The range is the y values. It's going to go from here down to here, right? So you see it's going to go from negative 2 to 2, all right? This is closed. This circle over here, this one here is closed. This one here is open. But since one of them is closed, you're going to cite this as it can be any number between negative 2, inclusive, all the way up to here. All right? When you see a straight line, this is inclusive. This can be a 2. All right? When it's a solid line like this, it's the same as being a solid circle. So this can be anything from a negative 2 all the way up to a positive 2. All right? Go over here. That makes them both square brackets. Okay? So square brackets, negative 2, the y value can be, since this is range, the y value can be negative 2 all the way up to positive 2. The way to write that in interval notation is negative 2 less than or equal to. This here means it's inclusive. And this means it's inclusive. You know that what closed and open means now. I'm having trouble with my pencil. All right. These two say the exact same things. All right. The final question on this, is this a function? All right. You take the vertical line test across here, and I'm just going to keep drawing lines up and down. Yes, 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 yes. It never touches 2 points at any part of this. So yes, it is a function. I'm going to erase these answers real quick and walk you through this circle. and show you how when I do these problems, how I do it. All right. The first thing I look is the x value. All right. This is going to go from -2 This can go from -2 all the way up to 2. So I write that down. -2, put the lower number, and I put a 2 here. I put the x in the middle. All right. I've got that written down. Is it inclusive? If it's inclusive, it's closed, and it is. So this is less than or equal to I put in both places. The next one I write the same way. There's my y. I know that this one's going to go all the way from a 1 up to a 5, and it's inclusive. There's no open circle there. It can include a 5. There's no open circle here at 1. It can include a 1. So I'm going to put that down. It goes from 1 to 5. I know it's inclusive, so I put, actually, sorry. There's my y. I know that it's inclusive. I know that it goes from 1 to 5. That's my interval notation. Now to do my set notation, I see that this one here is closed. 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 So these are all going to be square brackets. Square, 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 square. The numbers is going to be -2 and 2. Negatives, the range is going to be 1 and 5. Is this a function? I hope you can see without even putting a piece of paper or a ruler up that this is not a function. Because when you draw the vertical line many, many times, it's going to hit twice. So the answer for this one is no. Okay, on this next one, I'm going to go a little faster. Hit the wrong one. I'm going to erase the answers real quick because we're dealing with something new. I want to explain it. All right, the domain. First thing I want you to see that we're dealing with lines that are curves. That's something when we start dealing with squares and quadratics and things you're going to see. This line over here on the right, this just keeps going up and up to the left and up, and I'm sorry, up to the right. The one here on the left, it goes up to the left, and it just keeps going up and to the left indefinitely, infinitely. All right? So the domain on this one is going to be something you've seen before, but it's going to be, it goes from -infinity to +infinity, because this just keeps going up to the left and it just keeps going up to the right. The way to write that is like this, and the other way, if you're going to put this in interval notation, is you put your x down, this is from -infinity. So this means the x can be anywhere in between -infinity and +infinity. Okay, range is a little bit different on this one. All right, you see that it goes up, it keeps going up. The y value keeps going up, and that means it's going to be going to infinity. So if I go ahead and put that down. The thing that's different, though, is it only goes down as far as the 0. It only goes down to 0. We're talking about y values. It only goes down to 0. So I'm going to put the 0 there. All right. There's my x. All right. You know that it can include 0, so this one's going to look like this. it's going to have an equal sign underneath the less than sign. If I translate that to set notation, it's going to look like this. Square, because it's less than or equal to 0. Then on this side, it's infinity. There's no way it can ever be equal to infinity. So that one's going to be a round side. Is it a function? Yes. It never touches twice anywhere along this line. So yes, it is a function. All right. I think I've got one more. I'm just going to display it. This video is running a little bit longer than I want. All right. There's the answers to this last one with my scribble from my last class. So just talk you through this really quick. You can see that this is the furthest point to the right. This is the furthest point from the left. So the x value is going to go from -4 all the way up to 3. All right, you can see that the 3 is a open circle. The -4 is a closed circle. You can think of that being a closed circle. And as far as values, this goes all the way from -5 up to 5. All right. Both of these are round circles, so they're not going to be inclusive. So down here, these are going to be less than signs instead of less than and equal signs. And these parentheses are going to be parentheses and not square brackets. All right, guys, if you need to review this, but you all have got a worksheet you all need to work on.